We're very excited to be here. Last VFX we were here and we talked about our ethos. I want to dive real quick into Dream to show you as much as I can, and I will talk while I'm showing you about some of our choices. Dream is this universe that we've been working on in Media Molecule, an extension of our Little Big Planet and Tearaway titles. We've always been a creative, wanting to mix entertainment with creativity. Self-expression now is taken for granted, like it's something that everybody's doing. We are in the era of posting your opinions, your photos, getting recognition for that. So it's not a stretch to push that to its maximum. Dream is a place where people can post and publish anything they imagine or anything they dream. And you as a user, you can go in and just surf, watch what other people have made, kind of like the Netflix of games. You go, you search by a category, and off you go, you consume, you enjoy, you watch things from very traditional games to animations and short films. Today I'm not focusing on that side. I'm going to dive straight into the creating side of things, tailored to you guys to show you what's different about this way of creation. When you go into the dream shaping side of Dream, rather than the surfing, you've got the shaping. You find the different types of things you can create in Dream. Unlike Little Big Planet, Dream allows you to do everything from very big, grand games all the way to small elements like a special effect or a vehicle. All that is publishable, shareable, and there's a whole universe around that side of things. Categorizing it and rating it and liking it and so forth. There is going to be tutorials, and there is going to be a whole heap of user-published things that you can use to start up. I am going to go in and start something from scratch, because that allows me to show more of the tools. As you can see, I'm using the DualShock controller, but I will focus today on using the moves. They are identical user interface, but the major difference is that the move one, I've got all the menus on my auxiliary hand. I say auxiliary because if I'm right-handed, it will be here. If I'm left-handed, it will be on the other side, and you can do that in the settings menu. While if you're using the DS, the same identical menu is up there. And if I just drop it, it goes to sleep and the other one wakes up. So the same tools are usable whether you have the move and a camera or whether you don't. The main ethos of Dream was, before we even started, we were like, stuff out there is not bad. It's amazing. You know, when you look at animation, when you look at movies, when you look at the results, you kind of go like, well, obviously the tools are working. They're really incredible. The quality and the attention to detail when you watch something like Harry Potter or Star Wars or independent games, it's all great. The big problem, in our opinion, was how it was made, because the process itself is very, very specialist-oriented. These are tools that have developed in the last 25 years, and they started by CAD programs, and then they became what we're accustomed to seeing now. Our biggest starting point of Dream is that we wanted the act of watching someone create to be an entertainment in its own right, a performance. So even here, what I just started with, if I don't want to start entirely from scratch and I just want to use a search engine, here is a pre-made collection of someone's equivalent to a Pinterest board of my favorite elements. If I pick a rock and I place it in my world, I got a rock. Now, the act of me placing a rock is me holding it, putting it over there. No XYZ stuff and no rotate around origin and all these sort of alien concepts. Like, I've got a rock, I want to put it here. I want to make it bigger. I want to make it smaller. I want to flip a copy, put it down there, and put another one here, sort of thing. If I want to turn the camera, I grab the world and I turn it around. If I want to grab another one. So you can see just copying and pasting in its own right becomes a creative experience. Imagine if, in order for me to put that rock down there, I need to do 16 operations, like 1, 2, 3, 4, rotate, that's here, that's there. So it's like I think a lot of the tools make you become the that will do person. A lot of technicians have become, if something takes you like a week to just about get it to do its thing, it's not going to make you courageous. I just took a bunch of rocks from a search and I combined them together into a new composition just because of this philosophy of intuitive placement allows me to kind of examine my thoughts. Does it look cool here? Does it look cool there? And that is one of the foundations of Dream. We really took a lot of time to re-examine even the concept of just the mere act of placing an object in space. That makes you able to do a lot more just by some pre-made assets. And for a lot of people who aren't interested in making something from scratch and want to use existing elements, if you're like a movie director that just needs a tuft of grass or something like that, you can just make and only think about compositing. The Dream engine is very advanced, so it auto-computes everything. So if I take this rock and I want to make it a huge mountain and put that in the distance and have that like in my background, it auto-generates all the lighting information to make it look nice. Intersection in Dream is not a problem, and the engine copes entirely with any gear change like that, allowing you to make a whole thing out of one pebble. So you can just find yourself just copying and making interesting formations. And I find it really interesting how you get ideas from tools working with you. The nice thing in Dream is that it's all live. It's so if you put, for example, here is a pre-made character, and all these things that we're seeing on top of it are its abilities. If I place that character in the world like that, and if I just get my controller and decide to play, this little world that I've started to make is fully explorable and collidable. So at any point of your creation, you can explore your piece. The lighting and everything is the same. We don't have the principle of an editor and a playable thing. The whole thing is live all the time. In fact, it's really nice to build an environment for a character that you can always sanity check your decisions, kind of like architects always build for human scale. But it's a nice thing to be able to explore your space and examine your decisions. So that's a quick a tour on cut and paste and using pre-made stuff. And there is a whole world of searching that you can go through, and keyword search and search and browse through all the stuff that others have made. But if I want to make stuff from scratch, it's like, how does that look? A lot of times, or a lot of people call that the advanced stuff. I reckon our advanced stuff is even easier than using other people's pre-made things. All we moved the 3D operations entirely to be shape-based. Most 3D packages are all about points in space and vertices. You make a whole world out of a point in space. That already is a flawed concept. Nobody thinks like that. But this is a cylinder. We know what's a cylinder. You say, I'm going to put a cylinder here. I'll put another one beside it. I'm going to make a big one, small one, bigger one. You start getting, okay, that's interesting. I'm going to cut with the cylinder. So you can cut from the cylinder. And you sort of find yourself making like interesting formations. I can really do delicate decisions. If I want to zoom myself right in and do like really tiny little chips, sort of like that, or zoom out and do a whole cut that just takes half of the thing off like that. I can go from the macro to the micro, and I don't have to think about the cage. Like a lot of the biggest problems about polygonal modeling is that all the time you need to think about the quads, those quads, and make sure the triangles are clean. And that's rubbish, because I need to be thinking about the form. That's why we don't have time to be as good as Bellini and Degas and Michelangelo, because we are thinking about those polygons and stuff. Like, we need to think about the form. So I am going to quickly, I can't, and we don't have the right kind of time to go through everything. So I will have to change gears and stuff. So it will look a bit much. We will have slower demos in the future that run through everything. See what I've done here? Like, I like this bit, like where I basically, each one of those shapes, all the tools that are available in sculpture are available to me right now without me needing to go to one menu. So I can uniform scale this. I can change from adding and cutting. I can put one singular one, or I can draw with that form in a sort of smeary way. Instead of doing a gray, boring-looking thing, we will just bring in some color. So we've got a whole color swatches that you can pick your colors from, but I'm going to go to the advanced one and make myself an interesting sort of landscape color, brownish, and start working. Now, that's a bit too monochromatic, and every time I want to change the color, I have to go back to the menu and change, and go back to the menu and change. So we created this concept called the mixed color, where I pick a bunch of colors that I want to go between, like here, just a bunch of monochromatic changes, not to put some green in, tiny bit of green. So I've got this blob of color, and this now is my mixed color. So if I drag it like that, the bit facing the circle is going to pick the color that my object will change to. So if you look at the object now, it cycles between those colors. So me, rather than going back to the menu to change the color, it's just gonna change automatically for me. Again, allowing me to not have to go back to a menu to look at that form. So the simplest way of making a bit of landscape is just getting something like the cylinder and drawing a shape like that. And then we want to make it more interesting. So we have ways of blending the forms to each other. Rather than just having cylinder like that, I can actually just twist one of my dials, and I get this soft blending effect on the cylinders together. So now this has become a smoother looking piece of land. I have two ways of blending. I can do this soft blend look, or I can change to a more faceted blend. This faceted blend, we call it the hard blend, and it looks really cool. If I change my shape to, let's say, another one, like a torus. And that's it. I'm just putting a torus in space. That's a normal torus, but if I blend it, I start getting these interesting intersections. Now, see, the engine is doing all the work. I am just being like, if I drag to make a non-uniform scaled operation here, I sort of put my two controllers together and drag the shape to my liking. Yeah, I like that. And now I want to soft blend it and start making some nice contours and nice sort of forms. If someone would see this piece of sculpture, they might think that took someone like ages. And it's only a torus intersecting with the world and blended a bit to make my formation. And like, if I want to start being playful with it, you can sort of make interesting sort of shapes like that and get really nice results. Another effect that our tools can do, again, like if I get this cylinder again, start cutting, I can not only cut sharply like that, I can cut with the soft cutting. So rather than just a completely sharp one, this is the blended cut. So I'm doing sort of carving my shape, and I can like zoom right in. So this here is the fundamental principle of our sculpting. This form that I just made here, I can use, and I've just made by forms and shapes intersecting with each other, and sort of using that to make my environment piece. Turn it around, use the other side, start carving that copy and making another sort of variation. I'm gonna blend that. And we find like a lot of serendipity comes out of this approach in creation, because you really don't set out knowing what you intend to do, and you just decide on the fly, does it look nice here, does it look nice there? So I sort of made two pieces out of one, copy it a few times, flip, change it. And that's quite a hard, sort of rocky structure. We need to soften that up a bit. Sort of use the, cut this bit. I like the fact that you can always get interesting, unexpected. So I like, you can sort of make a whole strong cut like that. So I made my mountain formation. I need another, to introduce you to another one of our concepts. So in Dream, unlike most sculpture tools, we're used to see hard modeling. Like you find yourself most of the time doing things like what we're looking at now. Yes, we made it more interesting, but it's still very solid geometric formations. The thing we spent a lot of time to try to develop is a new concept in 3D which allows you to loosen things up. So you can make your forms more impressionistic. Again, with a twist of a dial, I made an impressionistic cylinder. These painterly forms can be still plonked down. If I'm going to use that I'll save that one to my swatches and then make a greeny kind of palette for some grass sort of thing. And now I'll just use that to paint some of my grass. And I have choices of different finishes. You can see it's made out of this sort of geometric shape. I'll change it to this one. It's cool. And then that's green is too strong. Sort of make it a bit more pastel. Here we go. And that philosophy of sculpture we call the sort of impressionistic side of dream. It's much more forgiving, allows you to sort of paint with 3D forms in a way that isn't too sharp. And I'm going to try to sort of time myself to do what I'm doing here is the organic side of 3D. This is the kind of stuff that you use to do everything, landscape, or when you do organic creatures or people or stuff like that. While second half of my demo, I'll try to move to the more geometric results that look more like the architectural end of dreams, and how can you do spaceships and cities and stuff like that. But this part here is very interesting to see that just the act of me using a 3D brush, a cylinder done using that loose style allows me to paint my forms in a pleasing way, sort of thing. So these are some of the two ends of our sculpture. Okay, let's go. So we go to the architectural bit now. I think that's a good. Copy and paste it a few times. Cut it. We have a lot of these shortcut gestures that we embraced in Dream to do summon the tools is a really nice feature. So you don't have to always go to the menus like we were saying. If I go now to do a more geometric thing, and I go to the same tools, pick a cube, for example, I pick a more different material, something more shiny, and I'll do some modules because architecture likes modules. So we sort of change that into a more white and blue or something. Yeah, something like that. And then I'll turn my grid on here. Now I can sort of work in a more architectural manner. So again, just placing those objects in space, but now with a grid that allows me to be more precise. I can do my modules. I will do a bunch of modules and we play with them. Something like very simple as well. Features add up to make very good experiences. So for example, if I want to make a little hole like that, then I can go into my architectural tools and pick that and duplicate it, sort of things you can get. It's modular elements. We can use as a philosophy of extruding shapes, kind of like we're familiar to see stuff like that in programs like SketchUp. And if I mix and combine cutting with this extruding, I can cut in the negative like that. So I made just like a little shape like that, and I can turn this into a beginning of a city. I just can copy it, paste it a few times, you get like a bit of a bridge, and then I sort of select that bunch, make that into a group. Now flip it, you get something more intentional looking. Put that here. And if I do another piece, but this time I'll use another shape. Let's use the sphere to do some like Zaha Hadid. Can be pretty playful. See, I'm trying to get, yeah, cool. So I can do something with that where make it my centerpiece. What's nice is that, again, even though we're in the tighter end of the spectrum, you can still be playful with your architectural designs. So, for example, I will do the same way that we were drawing all these rocky formations. I will make a module using that same philosophy, but with the grid turned on. So if I just shake my hand around like that, you get like some sort of Minecraft looking thing, but I can make a hole in it, get more interesting results. So that becomes a little bit, so I'm just moving it freely and yeah, like this. So now you have a bit of another type of geometric module to play with, make it more meaningful. And then you can mix and match, like the few modules that we've made now, start being interesting with it. Sort of. And the lighting in Dream allows you to do all sorts of things. So if I basically expand my world a little more, just to jump a bit to the mood and drama of the space and get a very different looking environment, we can now just want to make a bit of sea as well. Just, again, we were talking earlier about changing the philosophy of special effects and all that. So I just went here and I want to do myself a quick river. So I'll pick a bluish color scheme and make a few strokes, blue-green. There we go. And then I'll just make a bunch of strokes. I want to make a straight line stroke. So I've got a straight line stroke. And just do a bunch. Just 3 strokes like that in space. And I can change to more freehand style as well. Just a nice sort of cluster. And when I'm happy with it, okay, that's cool. Just place it beside my city. Take this, surround it. Take this. And expand the sea more. And to make that flow like and become more sea looking, I go to another brush, special effects brush, and basically I just hold the flow effect on it, and the more I hold, the more it flows. That's it. So it is, and then if I want it to be a little wavy, then I hold the wave brush on top of it, so it becomes a little wavy. Now, if I want to make it go in the other direction, I get my comb, and I comb it in the other direction. So if I want it to go in that way, just do that. Or if I want it that way, that way, that way, that way, that way. So that's the kind of vibe of dreams. It makes you make things in that way. And that's why, like, I want to change direction, you just comb it. And that we claim anyway, that encourages you to be more risky and change gear all the time, because you can, and you can do it pretty fast. So again, I want to go back into sort of the architectural geekdom, and just, again, we can pick sort of like change scale real quick and get like interesting formations happening, all from these three pieces that we were playing with. And you've seen how they happened. You sort of just a bunch of cylinders and cubes, and you see what you can get out of that. And to make it more, show you another effect we can do with our tools, is that I can let me make something glowing to use as like a light. So we have lights, normal traditional lights, which I will show you, but I actually want to show you that every single object in Dream can be turned into a light. So I've just sculpted yet another sculpture like that, just a sort of interesting shape. And then I will transform that into a light I just want to make it remotely interesting. And then, so that's like my shape. And I will go to one of my tools and change it into become a light tool here. And now that casts a light wherever it goes. So you can use this shape now as a interesting neon, or as a light structure and it emits. I can make it light a little bit more here. Yeah. And now we can sort of use that, put it in interesting places and make. Oh, oops. It's the Blade Runner. Little. Quite like this cloning that I'm doing is full of toys. So you can use it to do. If I make this copy from the previous one and I add clones, it takes the same relationship between number 1 and 2 and duplicates that. If I twist, it twists, so it keeps the recursiveness of the clone. So you can really do a lot of interesting things with that here. So I sort of made this thing, and then I'll sort of take that piece, respond to it. And it's sort of like you can see some of the architectural modularity happening. Now, if I want to change the mood entirely of all this stuff after the fact, like, okay, I like it, but the colors are not very cool or something. So anyone who uses Photoshop or photo retouching knows adjusting and things like that. We've got the adjusting tool, so I can go and retint my whole thing. So if I go, I actually want to give this world a bit more sort of warmth. I will pick some orange palette, sort of more orange even so. And then I've got my tinting tool, and if I hold on, so I haven't changed from the glowing one. This is on glow, this is the tint. So now, the more I hold my tint over the world, it tints it into the color I picked. So if I pick purples, it will sort of give it the world of Prince sort of thing. And then if it's like too much, I can take it out again. This is a brilliant example, actually, of application. So we could have done like every tool and allowed you to just select a few things and you go and you get some sliders. But we wanted you to actually, you add and then you're going to ask too much. No, a bit more. No, less. No. Uh, 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 that is the state of mind that is needed to be obsessive about your right tone of purple. Because so yeah, so that's a nice example of like tinting. We have also, you can change rotate the hues of something. So I can just like hold over and just nudge the hues a little to get more variety. I can like the same way that I have done this bit of C, we have a whole heap of those special effect brushes that are quite fun. If I am to turn this shape or this world that we've made into an abstract piece of art, and I just say, okay, let's change gear now and get weird, you know. So that's one of the things I really like in Dream, is that I can go in and loosen the whole thing up. So I go to my style tool, and then I can have what we call the looseness brush. So now if I hold over my the objects, I can basically change their looseness and change their appearance. So if I hold over the objects, you can see now it's all getting more painterly. So I just hold on a bit more here, a bit more there. Take this as well. So I'm just turning it a bit into a bit of a Turner style piece. And then it's like, I wish it was all in this Jackson Pollock style. So I just go Jackson Pollock paint over it and change that into that style. Or it's like, no, we want to see that in triangles or that triangle brushes. I was adamant in Dream to not do textures like wood and stuff. And you make your wood. If you want wood, you can create your own one, and then it will be unlike anybody's wood. It's not just like one procedural material that someone made. Like, you know, one of our artists makes their wood in a quite an illustrative style like that. Another person can be hyper realistic. So you know, we give you the building blocks, and you make it into what you like. So if I want to change and start having some fun with this, using the more effects, I can sort of go to this effect tool. It's called the Boyle Tool, and basically that makes things boil like a 2D hand drawn animation. If I want to change, make it flowy, so to take this piece here, turn it into an abstract formation. Take these modern pieces and start. So what started as a rational sort of like landscape demo, an architectural demo, you can be more playful and wild and just do 3D art. You don't have a plan, and you're just playing with shapes and forms. Let's change these cylinders into a nice color scheme. Remember that color we did cycling colors? I just give this sort of the variety. So I can have some difference. I can make one of them play with the materials here, make that one shinier, and make another one more wax like sort of, and take another one and make it glow. And then even some of our playfulness here, you can make just one little cylinder like that, or actually the donut looks cool on. And if I grab it, I can spin it in my hand like that, and then make sort of cool little shapes. And you know, like you look at this shape and it's like, nice, I can sort of make a bit of a world out of that, and copy it and make, like, you know, swirly intestine planets or something. But you see where I'm heading. Like, I am trying to show you that 3D, even from scratch. I started the demo showing like pre-made assets and stuff. You can have everything from very cartoon looking things to more straight CG. Like this one is like more Disney-esque, and then another one is just more conventional props, and you got like a bike here, and you can have more science fiction looking things, and people can go nuts in the level of detail. You can basically make characters that are very, very akin to what you would see made in 3D Studio. In fact, let's keep the dude here sort of coming through the world. It's like, hello. Yeah, so I think we are close. I tried to jump between things. I didn't linger too much on the nuances, just to be able to change gear and shift between the different tools. But as I started this demo dropping a character in the scene, it might be a nice thing to end on as well. So I go back, get a pre-made one. You can make characters from scratch. We'll do very extensive demos of that stuff because it's crazy. Like the character design side of Dreams is nuts. We basically have been looking at puppeteering, and you have like just a marionette, a digital marionette that you use. It's like the bear in the sort of Archie land and painterly madness. And then you can go in, and then she dies. So if we had time, you go between the play and test and move and nudge things around. So for and you can even go from the player perspective and sort of build exactly stuff that is the right scale for them, and then test it again and again and go back and forth between those two things. That allows your space to be much more successful and not just a pretty screenshot. So there you go. That is a little bit of a demo of Dream. We have some time as well to talk about or to take some of your questions if you have any.
I don't know. There's a question already. I'm not surprised.
It's all other programs finished
now. The thing is, like, I started by saying, like, the stuff that we see out there, the quality of animation and special effects is out there, like class. And I'm a proper geek. I love all the things. We get excited by the latest superhero movie or even the more weird arty stuff. That stuff will always live. I think what we tried to do here is the equivalent of Unplugged for the digital medium. You need to be able to sketch. You don't, and the tools out there are not very sketch oriented. They are very much like the execution tools. They are made to do the Hollywood blockbuster or the next game or the next app. Very seriously oriented. This is super serious, but this is trying very hard to allow the sketching. It takes a big mentality leap. To answer your question, a lot of people, especially in the digital world, are already trained and accustomed to this tight way, and these tools, people are very proficient in it. So this, I think, and we all hope it will play a part. Yeah, it will play a part in changing things. We think that not only the philosophy of the tools that I demoed, only a tip of the iceberg of, but the act of having publishing together with tools in the same pack. It's like Netflix, but with a tool that allows you to make the things in Netflix, you know. So, and for the people to have their own forums and share the little, from a tiny prop to this movement is kind of from a tiny prop to the biggest piece. So we think it's going to play its part for sure in loosening things up.
Do you think that there'll be a possibility to have players create their own brushes and stuff?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of logic in this thing. So there is the programming tools, there is the animation tools, there is the sound tools, and they go from the ethos like that I was showing you. We tried to make the UI of it as nice as possible wherever we could, but it goes super deep. So people can make technology for other people to use. Like, for example, a guitar pedal. You get the guitar pedal and it makes a nice effect on the sound. And it's got like 3 dials on it that you can, yeah, I like these 3 things. So someone can make that for you with just like enough controls for you to tune the user-facing side, while inside that tool there is a lot of electronics and madness. So people can do not only brushes, but they can do fully performable musical instruments, a complete character that is ready for you to act with and perform with a whole movie and change its animation states and make it, but do that live. So you're like actually like telling a story to a kid with that puppet, like a puppeteer sort of doing it in front of you. So yeah, people will not only make brushes, people will make everything to share with others. We do that ourselves already. Media Molecule is using Dream to make a game. We always do that in our tools to keep it real. And we have been doing a lot of macro designs for each other to use. So definitely, yeah.
Just to say quickly then, it seems to be like limitless possibilities
Yeah.
with Dreams. Could you tell us a bit about the development? I mean, over how long a period has this been developed?
Yeah, man. Yeah, oh my God.
Sorry, I don't take up all the time.
I was like 35 when we started. I'm 42. No, we started. We started it with a small group, very R&D oriented. Media Molecule was doing Tearaway at the time, and a small group of us started R&Ding. Sony were amazing, really. Sony really get what this is about, and they know that we need to iterate 1,000,000 times to get breakthroughs. So we had enough time, enough talent, and it took a small group of R&D growing very slowly, finished Tearaway 1 and Tearaway Unfolded. People moved from that to the Dream hub. Now all Media Molecules working on Dream, and the extended family in Sony as well are helping out. But the process of designing tools as well, because as well as browsing engine, as well as like your own, and we don't want it to feel like a forum of sharing CG. It wanted to feel like you are in the Dream universe. So we had another team that is gamifying everything, making the game track your behavior and tells you, okay, you're a musician. It gives you musician points. Your aura now is the aura of a musician, and it shoots stuff at you and gives you points and create. So there's a whole macro design, and a whole group of us are working on that. The complexity of developing Dream is unlike any game development story. Most games use tools off the shelf or even in-house tools, but that are never designed for others to ever see. So they don't take the time to try to make them user-friendly or anything. But so our existence is kind of like a hybrid between game development studio, with all what that entails. When you design a game, you make the levels, you make the stories, you make the animation, character designs, and keep iterating. And that's that company. And then you have a tool development company that is kind of like Adobe or something. But not really, because we're not targeting only the graphic designer. We want to bring it back to everyone again. So the makeup of the team is very complex. Media Molecule is full of multi-talented people. One of our engine programmers, Mark Adami, is a great guy, and he plays piano like Chopin. You know, you have people who are in the music team, and they are fully involved in the story. Our QA department creates some of the best stuff we've seen in Dream, so they move to the art team and so on. Like, we don't pigeonhole people, and we don't feel that the hyper specialization is a good thing. It's good to be good, but it's not good to be tiny.
Can you combine this with FBXs and PFDs and use other software as well, or is it kind of self-contained?
Good question. Like, for the first generation of Dream, we start exclusive on the PlayStation. You have to have a PlayStation to do all this stuff on. That's phase one. And then we have a 10-year plan for this. So then we have, after that, what we call the export path, where you can take things out of Dream and use it in the bigger world of the tools and publishing, etc. But that is definitely the phase two, but it's in our plans.
Anyone can produce art. With that, do you have the consideration of like egos and influences as part of the game? Like, can someone be really good at the game and
we have two concepts that we did from the LBP time. In LBP, there is a web counterpart for every user in Dream. You have a website on the web that represents that user. In your website, you not only put all your stats and stuff, you can link to all your top videos. So you can be known for, like, that dude does the best robots in Dream, and they post a video of how they make it, and it's got like mega following. And you can find that via the dream.me website that links you to that. So definitely, and then back in Dream, your persona and popularity and people will like and follow. There's a whole social network side of Dream. It's like Facebook stuff. You will have all your friends and all your people, and you'll be high up on the artists forums, and people will know you, follow your films out in the real web, and follow you inside Dreams, link to you, add you to their friends and favorites and all that stuff.
Would there be any moderation for the social side of things?
Absolutely.
As well as, when people are creating things, they can create something that's not exactly what you guys are, interested in, including, ruining the reputation and such. Would there be any kind of moderation in any sort of this?
Yeah, we have a lot of experience, but like, since YouTube and came out in the world, we did Little Big Planet actually before YouTube, and when asked with moderation, yes, there are teams that take down offensive material, basically. Surprisingly, there's much less of it than you'd imagine. You always anticipate, like, oh, what if some people do like some racist, crazy stuff? Very rarely it happens, but if it happens, it gets taken down, basically. People grieve.
Like online harassment, say like, your community starts getting a bit rabid, and then there's like harassment, so there be any moderation?
You grieve it and take it down. Yeah, definitely. It's the systems now that do that sort of thing are like amazing. People, the expertise, we have that experience from LBP, and definitely the griefing systems to take down offensive material or behavior of any sort. There are systems in place that deal with that, and we learned a lot in the past as well from that. But like, amazingly and unsurprisingly, the how little it does happen, especially in creative environments. Because the whole ethos of Dream as well is sharing. Like, we have little things like a whole system in Dream called the genealogy system, where if you create a piece and someone comes in your level and likes it and remixes it and takes it and makes something with it in their world, if you allow that. If you don't want it to be reusable, you can lock it. Forever, your name is kept in the DNA of that piece. So if that person does a game and another person takes their game, and so your piece of work and your credit is part of it forever. And when you go to the genealogy view, it shows you the history and of the DNA of the. So the dream is all about encouraging the sharing and collaboration and lots of educational. If anything, the most exciting uses of tools like that end up finding their way for educational purpose, so much more than people using it for sort of like dark thing.
Couldn't just wake up a little character behind it.
Hey, you know that? Yeah, it's a way. I think it. No, it doesn't have that feature. Like we had a feature. I think it's turned off at the moment. Where if I speak loudly beside it, it sort of mimics me. But no, it's not working now.
Yeah, so not a long time ago, a game called Project Spark.
Yeah.
And also Mario Maker.
Yeah.
Came out, and it was like it caught on because it's very streamlined and simple, but also maybe limited.
Yeah.
I feel like Dreams is going to stand out and work those shortcomings and maybe be better. What makes it the next level?
Very brilliant question. We have lots of respect to these efforts in the past, and they did a lot of good ideas. We didn't take the similar routes. Like one of the very, very key ingredients of Dream that we wanted was to capture the uniqueness of every person using Dream. In things like Spark, for example, you can have a ready-made piece of land that you put, and it comes with, like, you know, the bells and whistles and the particles and the effects and stuff. If I use the piece of land and you use it and they use it, it's all the same one. To subvert it into you and your style takes a lot of hacking and overriding and it still looks like Project Spark. It doesn't look like you. It looks like Project Spark. This here looks like my stuff. Like here, these are my shapes, my cuts. Each and every one of those cuts is manually done. And if someone wants to use pre-made assets, then they will use my stuff. But they will still use it in a way that, like we were saying before, even just like the difference, like somebody would have made, for example, a tree or a face, and I can use it in a very different way. Let me see if I can find something real quick, like this crazy frog here. So I've got a frog someone made as a frog, but I'm going to use it as an environment piece. And I will basically place it in the land like that and start making a stylish, sort of like blobby looking world. And then sort of so it looks a bit alien and grab that. It's a bit Giger style. And if I copy this part and do this sort of net cloning, I make it into a... So this I've owned it. I've owned this now. It's not the frog anymore. It's mine. And this is Dreams. It makes you and your choices in the foreground all the time. How that will make a big difference is that we believe in people more than tools, more than technology. It's the only thing that doesn't date. Everything dates. Everything becomes obsolete like in 5 minutes. But people know. People stay cool. Like, you know, we still like Oscar Wilde. We still like the Beatles. You know, even though the technology they used is out of date. Dream puts the person in the foreground because it's all about your decisions, your choices. How can you quickly not be the same like the next person?
Seems like a perfect place in which to wrap it up. Thank you for such an eye-opening and eye-popping display here. Thank you very much, Kareem. Can we give him one round of applause, please? Thank you.